Welcome back. And we're moving into our second conversation for today, looking at stress management. Now, we can't take away your stress. We can help to give you some advice from the medical professionals we have here about what you can do to reduce the feelings of stress you're having. And we have with us internist Dr. Fernando Cuellar, and we have professional counselor Aimee.
Hi, good morning.
Both of the Belize Medical Associates. Good morning, welcome.
Morning. Thanks for having us again.
And how stressed are you guys feeling right now?
On a scale of 1 to 10, maybe an 8.
0.5.
That's not surprising
Typical.
at all, right? Not surprising. Now, I almost feel that one of the things we need to first talk about is what is considered stress in the first place. And is it a health issue, a mental health issue, or a part of everyday living?
Well,
It's a human condition.
well, sorry, Marlene. I just want to make sure that we at Medical Associates want to show or exhibit or portray that we care about the whole aspects of healthcare. Just recently, we were here talking about CT scans, MRIs, the latest technology on the market. But the whole gamut of services that we provide at Medical Associates do include things like counseling services with Aimee.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we see very often, perhaps too often, is stress. So I like to start off by that. And as a physician, I can see it involved in any and each patient that I see every day, from the most complicated medical condition to perhaps the least one, a common flu, to we were talking about road traffic accidents, and we have people who have been injured, and we know that, for example, trauma is stressful to the body, and of course I see it very often with family members. So we actually have to.
With the intensity, the duration of the stressor, and it has to be something that not everyone deals with the same situation the same way. So maybe some people may have a flu and it is just a normal thing and they can cope with everything the same, but then for someone else the flu is the last thing on top of 100 other things. And so it really depends on the individual.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that when you're ill, your stress levels go up even more because you're worrying about, am I going to get better? Especially if it's a terminal illness. How is it going to affect my family? I'm not going to be able to work. How will income come in? All of these things will add to the level of stress that you're experiencing. How do you address that?
But could we define stress better? As simplistic as possible?
But very, very clearly, I mean, listen, people are watching right now saying, please, everybody handles stress. Why do you have to see a doctor, a mental health professional? And we still struggle with getting people to understand. So is it a health issue?
It surely is.
Okay.
It surely is. And my research, and of course when I come on these shows I try to read, but you see all different definitions, and I think in broad Creole, that's stress.
Yeah.
We always will have stress. I always tell people, I think from the Pope to the man working in the street have pressures, but how you cope with it is what causes the stress, and then I leave it to Aimee to fine tune that.
So he did the easy part. Now, breaking it down, stress is something that everyone deals with. We all have issues. We all have everyday things. It's exactly what he said. What do you do to cope? Your physical body takes a toll, your emotions take a toll, your mind and how you figure things out take a toll. So for a person who has everything in order and one thing is off, if you can't get back to your normal, that's when you start getting stressed out. So it really, again, I go back to it depends on the individual. Stressors are always there, but how do we cope with those stressors? Those are the main issues.
Or when it starts to affect your everyday life. Now, in fact, stress can cause health conditions, different health conditions, and worsen different health conditions, right? Let's talk about that first.
Yeah, it plays a role in every different system in your body. Your brain function, your heart function, your lung function, your immune system. Your musculoskeletal, you start having pains here and there, and affect blood pressure, you affect diabetes, so it has an effect on everything.
And how you're coping with things can make things better or worse. You always want to look for those people who have a positive attitude. Those are the people who will recover a lot more quickly. And so people who are taking it bad, like you said, if they're overthinking about how it will affect their family, their life from now on and everything, they often get to have a bigger toll on them because they're not as resilient, because they're not coping with things as well.
You know, and I also think about the fact that if I'm dealing with stress and I've been dealing with it for my entire life, how do you change someone's mentality to understanding that talking to someone else, a counselor, is actually effective?
You know, actually walking into the counseling office is one of the first steps that you take, that you've already changed your mindset. When you have resistance, you have to work on getting that change. So very often people say like, oh, my daughter is not coping with this, or my husband isn't coping with this, and I think that person really needs counseling. And it's always up to me to say, yes, I can help, but you can only go as far as you're willing to put the work into it. And that's one of the things about counseling. A lot of people walk in and they're resistant, but they said, you know what? I think I need something different. And that's where the turning point is, where they are willing to go in and do something different. And they're surprised very often by their own work and their own effort. So it's very often the client who puts in all the work, and I just help them to see where it is that they want to go.
Now, how do you identify between a person who, I mean, like I said, we all have different stressors, but how do you identify when somebody needs a little extra help?
Good question, Marlene. And as a person who has been in this field for more than 20 years, it's hard to identify exactly. So what I do is basically I just take it for granted they need it. I don't wait to, okay, now is the time. So I think even if they come in for a regular checkup, you do discuss the biological part, but you ask about different things, how you're at work, how is your sexuality, and all of these things, which is another big part. And I see at the office every time they come to me and say, you know what, this isn't functioning. And it goes right back to stress management. No? So I think the best way to make sure that nobody slips through the cracks, so to speak, is just assume that everybody has a certain level of stress and just at least mention it, okay?
And when they go to him and he refers to me, I don't take for granted the note he takes. I have to go in and do an exhaustive questioning as well. I asked about the present, I asked about physical issues, I asked about family issues, I asked about their medical issues, and everything has to be asked, because if I don't ask about drug history, or I don't ask about sexual history, or I don't ask about things, even though you come to me with one certain topic, that may not be it. So we have to go and ask and question and pursue everything that needs to be covered.
So let's give some tips. How do we, or what is the best way to deal with stress?
You're the professional in me.
You're the 0.5 too.
I know, right? He's like, I'm dealing with stress. I think the first thing you have to do is know yourself. You have to know what it is that you want, and you have to know how to prioritize your life. Sometimes you have to let go of something that you have been carrying your whole life, you know, your major goal, because it's not priority anymore. You know, sometimes you have to figure out that the person who you were last year, or the person who you were 5 years ago, is not the person you are today. And so you want to move forward with something you're happy with. So in order to cope with your stress, you really have to prioritize the things that you need.
Now I want to jump, sorry, we have a question from one of our Facebook users, and they're asking, what do people do when it comes to financial stress?
Well, I'm glad that the person asked that, because I was wanting an opportunity to mention that I would say don't let finances stress you out. I have an experience
as
again.
a doctor.
No.
Well,
exactly. Let's use that as a doctor. I see people who are struggling, like hand to mouth, poor people, and I see very rich people, millionaires, and I don't know if Belize have billionaires, but I see millionaires out of Belize, and all of them, no care how much money they got, they want stress at some point. So, not think that money will solve it. I have seen maybe tens of people, 50 millionaires, I believe, where no care how much money they got, If they not got good health, then they stress. And they can't buy health, they can't buy happiness, they can't buy de-stressing. So that person who asks about money and financial thing, take it easy. I'll look positively and be grateful for what you have. Okay, like right now, oh shucks, we don't have money for about Easter. We don't got money for $1,000 or $800 for about a playa or Chetumal. Okay, go to the Ladyville or go to Hattieville for Easter or somewhere.
Yeah.
And then chill. Okay, you don't have to make that day.
One of the things that when it comes to finances, he's right. Money doesn't make you necessarily happier. You know, the grass is always greener on the other side. So the thing that we really have to look at when it comes to financial situations is, again, what do you want to do with the money? Are you living beyond your means? If you are doing that, then you will always add extra stress. So if you want, one of the first steps to decrease stress is to look at the things that are stressing you out. So if money is stressing you out, yes, you shouldn't worry about it or you shouldn't give credence, but honestly, ask your friends or ask someone who's an expert. How do I learn to make a budget? How do I balance a budget? And actually start directing. You'd be surprised that in counseling, that's one of the things that I do, because stress comes for a big amount of the population from finances. Because we want to live a certain way or we expect to live a certain way. Who says that we have to go to Playa or Placencia? What is wrong with Ladyville? Oh, everyone else is going, everyone, you know?
Yeah. Do you know, it's very interesting though, because in my mind, when I heard this question, that's not where I was going. Because I've had a friend recently approach me, and she's going through a really rough financial time, and it's not because she lives above her means. It's not because she values money the way that we're talking about now. It's because she has medical issues, so she has a lot of bills, she has kids, she has other obligations, and that's what's stressing her. It's not the love of money, it's the fact that it's
and
bearing down
that
on her.
if you ask almost any business or finance, medical issues are always one of the biggest impacts on your finances. Because once you start a medical issue, you have to go to the end. It's not like you have cancer and like, oh well.
Yeah.
It changes your life. A lot of these medical things change your life. And so when these things come up, yes, you have to have that support system. That is something that we haven't touched upon yet. But support system is one of the things that I ask at every single session. So if you come to me 100 times over 3 years, I will ask you every time, so who is in your life? Who do you go to? And if I'm the only person, it can't work out. I have to make sure that there are at least 2 or 3 other people in your life that you can count on. And these people aren't necessarily there to provide you money, which is sometimes like when we are stressed out and we get locked into a situation, we always think, well, if I only had $100 to take me to the end of the week, or if I only had $20 to take me to the end of the week. And very often your friend doesn't have the $20 to give you. So what you have to do is to really sit down and see where that friend can help you. Maybe that friend can help you out with one lunch for one kid or something. So you really have to look at your support system as well.
I suppose to look at this from a different angle is, and you can both share your experiences on this, is it that financial stress is insurmountable? Have you worked with persons who are struggling and still have them be able to come up with a plan that reduces their stress from worrying about finances, even though you're not giving them money?
I'm taking their money, which is just so they don't come out. No, that's not true. I'm a person who always works with people. If they tell me they have a financial situation and I think that they need counseling, I always work with them. You'll see. I work with pro bono cases and sometimes for a matter of a long time. But one of the things that I am not is a financial consultant. But
you can access them in Belize.
But the thing is, if they want to go to a financial consultant, they have to pay that person. That stresses them out. So we do work on something. I will work on a meal plan with you. I will work with budgeting with you. I will work on anything it is, because my job is to listen to what it is that you bring.
Yeah.
So once I listen, I try to figure out and work out with where you need to go.
Yeah.
So we look at what you need to go get a loan, what you need to balance your month to pay. I mean, you know, this is one question about finances, which it's not often discussed. Well, if you have financial issues, go to counseling, but it's something we discuss.
We've had many conversations with financial specialists here, and the underlying issue is oftentimes prioritizing.
Yeah.
And we can't tell people how to prioritize. It's an individual choice.
Well, I do.
You can. But I think, you know, like if some people feel that having their car is most important and struggling to get groceries for feeding the kids. You know, sometimes it means you make hard choices. But I don't want to get into that because I think that that's an individual process people have to work on. But if you look at what is part of the conversation that takes place, all these self-help movements, all of the education that comes out from the psychology aspect, it focuses on what you were speaking about before. It's gratitude for what we do have that can lead to happiness and less stress. How does this work? Why is this part of the key and continuously pushed as part of the way that we help to become happier persons? Does it come with age? Is that what it is? Like experience?
Which comes first, the chicken or the egg? The attitude to be happy or the happiness?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the question that she posed, I mean, it was quite relevant of the financial and being going through health. But I still stick to that main point. Millions of dollars doesn't make a difference. Okay? You could be in this situation right now, and I give you $1 million, it won't make much difference because I've seen it. People with millions of dollars still have health issues, still know that they'll end up where everybody else end up, and they just try to find the silver lining in well, at least my son isn't ill, or at least somebody is good, and try to set things in place so that when they're no longer there, then their children and their loved ones will be taken care of as much as well. The support system, the family,
you
friends.
Want to set things in place. You want to make sure that when you prioritize, you leave something for everything, you know, so you give everything its place. What you were saying in having a part for your children and a part for your family and giving everyone their time, you want to make sure that in planning, in giving out your stress, in distributing and redistributing everything, what you want to do is to make sure that everyone has a little bit so that it's not all placed on one person because the burden is difficult.
Yeah.
And everything that you go through life teaches you something. Like from a personal point, I just from yesterday I was saying, what are my stresses? What stresses me out? Okay. Finance are not a stressor for me, not because I'm a doctor and make so much money. Okay. It's not that. My stressing is the expectation that is of me. Either one of the better known doctors, I'm expected to perform at a certain level. So I always, the stress about, did I diagnose properly? Did I treat properly? That's my stressing point, that I am expected to perform at a certain level. And if I don't, then I have failed in big time. And that's my personal stress when it comes to my life. Okay.
And many people carry that stress. That was part of our eye-opener this morning. The expectations we have for ourselves oftentimes are part of our greatest burden. And sometimes they're set by what we think society defines what we should be. So if you are of a certain age, you should be at a certain point in your life.
That was a question we tackled this morning, right?
But the key thing is acknowledging and accepting and being grateful for your own path and your own journey. And I do think part of it comes with experience, because you could never tell me this 10 years ago and think that I was going to buy into it.
When you say that to people, be grateful for what you have. And do I have anything? And when they start thinking about it, they say, yeah, I do have something to be grateful for. And that makes a difference.
That you woke up in the morning, that you can put your feet on the ground and walk, that you have a job to go to, that even though it stresses you out and probably don't want to go, you have a source of income.
Always look for something that you should be grateful for. And there is. Believe me, okay, if you miss the bank payment for this month, or you have mounting medical bills, or something else, there is always something that you will find.
And not
that
just
should-
sit back and say, well, I have that, but also I have the ability to work on something different.
Yeah.
Because that's the next step. We don't just want to sit back and say, well, I have these things. You don't resolve your stressors unless you face them. So yes, you have the mounting medical bills. Yes, you have this diagnosis to deal with. So deal with it, because if you don't, it just stays on the back burner and eventually it comes back to you.
Yeah.
I just had a question as it relates to stress in the workplace, because as you mentioned, our jobs are necessary and we're going to have stress at work regardless of what our job is. If it's a doctor, if it's a teacher, if it's a stay-at-home mom, you're going to have stress factors that, impact you on a daily basis. How do you approach that situation where you're dealing with stress, you're managing it, and you're accepting it to the point where it doesn't elevate consistently? It just you're able to cope.
Well, basic stuff, we should never ever forget, and in any conversation, eat healthy and exercise.
Yeah.
Okay? You not take money for do that. Maybe there's an argument about eating healthy is expensive.
Yes.
But the exercise can be free.
Exercise is free and it helps.
Eating healthy could
It's-
be just
it's
beans
very-
and
it's
corn
very
tortillas.
healthy. So there are different strategies that you can do, like the exercise part that will help to manage the stress. No? And again, evaluate your priority. If you're doing a job where they, as you said, they get higher and higher, then you have to step back and say, hey, maybe I need a next job. Okay? And sometimes, like the saying, say one door closed, the other one open. So who knows? You go for it and
then
and
you-
talk to people. I see many times in the office, my job is stressful. I got one boss, like deadlines and things. Approach the person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I find that people are afraid to approach their superiors or bosses and talk. And who knows the person? Many times it happens. Hey, could I make with talk about this because
Or the bank when you can't make the complete payment.
You're asked for something unrealistic. I can't produce 10 reports for Friday.
Yeah.
Okay, but give me 5 Friday and 5 Saturday, and a person probably will say, well, give me 6 for Friday and 4. But have that conversation. Okay.
I wanted to add that you need change when you have a stressor. So you can change yourself, you can change your attitude, you can change your mindset if you can't change your environment.
Yeah.
So something has
It's
to
a
give.
serenity prayer.
Yes.
Change the things you can.
Although
Or
I
change
saw-
how you
I
approach
saw a
it.
quote the other day from Dr. Angela Davis. She's like, I'm no longer accepting the things I can't change. I'm changing the things I can't accept.
Okay.
That's a good perspective.
But key is perspective. But let's do the general because there are stress management tips. Let's do the general because when we delve into financial, medical, and work, it starts to stress me out that we're not really responding to people's needs. But there are general stress management tips that we can be able to share. So let's get into some of those.
Well, we've already discussed some of them.
Yeah.
Prioritizing, managing your diet, exercising, leading a balanced life.
Yeah.
Those are the main things that you want to talk about. Having a healthy support system, making sure you're taking care of yourself, taking care of yourself mentally, emotionally, making sure your environment is okay. You have to look at the different aspects of your life and make sure that things are in balance. So when you are stressed out, it means you are coping. So you have to look at the things that are keeping you from coping and addressing those things and seeing how you can balance those back.
All right. And as a warning, I suppose, what happens if you don't manage your stress well?
Well, eventually it will lead to serious health problems. You will have high blood pressure, you can have diabetes. Stress can affect your sugar levels for sure. You can develop heart disease, you can develop things like anxiety and depression. Okay, every single part of your body can be affected by if you don't manage your stress properly. You start with pain at the back of your neck and your shoulders and your hands and all over the place.
Strokes.
Women, their menstrual period can change and become irregular, and their urinary pattern get unbogged, and their bowel movements change. So then hair start to drop out, then skin start to change. So it affects each and every part of your body.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Any final points to people, to Belizeans who are watching and saying, okay, I need to get my stress under control? Step 1.
Talk to someone about it. Because very often we get inside our heads and we go down our path that leads to a very bad place. A lot of darkness, negativity. And so when we talk to someone, it gives us a little perspective on what we do have, what we can appreciate, and where we need to go.
Yeah.
And be grateful for the little you have. You'll be surprised that the little you have is something more than what somebody else would have.
All right. Well, thank you very much for being here. Of course, both of you offer care at Belize Medical Associates. We know where to find you, Dr. Cuellar. Aimee, is it an appointment basis at your clinic?
I'm usually there from 11 till 6 is my last appointment on Mondays to Fridays, and Saturday mornings from 9 till 2. Walk-ins are available. Appointments you can make calling 223-0303. I think this month they're having a kind of promotion. If you call and you make an appointment, I'll charge 50% for the first appointment and 25% off for all follow-up appointments during the whole month.
Okay.
So we really want to make sure that people are talking, people are getting to tackle the things that they need to change.
Okay. Well, thank you for stopping in.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll be talking to representatives of the Ariel Rosado Foundation. So stay tuned.